The market takes a breather and consolidates near the highs. Is it still buy, buy, buy? This is Invest with Jacob. Okay, guys, so in yesterday's video, we talked about a few different paths as the market has been pretty straight up and bullish for a while now. And while the market didn't do a whole lot open to close price-wise, in the middle there were a couple of minor pullbacks that might give us a little bit of a hint as to what's going on. The question is it still buy, buy, buy? I'll get into that in just 1 second. But first, if you're new here, welcome to the show, guys. My name is Jacob Gabbard, and this is Invest with Jacob, where we use Elliott Wave Theory to break down the SP 500 and the NASDAQ. I highly encourage you to hit that subscribe button down below so that you can get our daily S&P updates, our trade setups, and our buy alerts. All right, guys, before we jump into the video, I do want to go over one thing if you're watching this on YouTube, and that is when you're watching YouTube videos of people breaking down the market, that does not mean that is what they are trading unless they explicitly say this is my trade. Our analysis by most of us is done before the market opens, and our trades are done very differently. For me, especially, I trade setups. Just because I expect the market to pull back doesn't mean I'm short or shorting the market. It just means I am looking for a pullback, and if I get the setup, I will enter a short trade. So just because we are looking for a certain thing doesn't mean we are trading that certain thing. It means we're looking for a setup to trade it. And then if we get that setup, we take it. Just an FYI and something that might help you along the way. Now let's jump into the chart and take a look. Okay, guys, so here we are on the 4-hour futures chart for the S&P 500. And yesterday we talked about a few different things. All of those things are still live as the market didn't really move a whole lot today to matter, essentially. So what we're looking at is the market pushed up in the pre-market, then kind of traded down during the day, and then back to about even overall, a little bit green, I believe, was the close. And so on the ES, it's not as prominent. On the NQ, it was a little bit better, but we did see at least a pullback. And that pullback isn't indicative of anything to the downside other than we're kind of looking for a wave 4 and 5 to complete this A or B wave here. Okay, we talked about both those possibilities, and I'll go over them again today. We were looking for a pullback and then a move up to kind of give us a 4 or 5 to complete that move up in those two patterns. So the three patterns we were looking at are first the A wave. Overall, I was looking for an ABC pattern up to new all-time highs. And the overall A wave should have topped out around 4,800, and that's about where we are right now. We just didn't get an ABC inside of that ABC, if that makes sense. So typically, here, I'll draw one on the side here. Typically, if you're going to make an A wave, that A wave will have an A, B, C in it. In this case, we got an A wave that looks more like this. You have a A, B, C. Okay, so your B wave is very short if that's going to be what's playing out, and we did not get a normal retrace that you would expect and would be reasonable in most markets. So if the circle A here is playing out, okay, we have a very shallow B wave and a very strong push up to 4,800, which again was about where we would expect the overall A wave to end. When I started calling for a pullback, it's when we expected this A wave to end to give us this B wave pullback. Now, it didn't give us a full B wave pullback, and that's okay. That's not a big deal. It just changes how the format or the structure of the market is. It makes it a little more difficult to track. Now, overall, what we'd be looking at is the C wave to end with a 4-5, and we'd like a little bit deeper of a 4 here for sure. We'd like to see them come back to this 4,700 area and then higher, but the idea is they are at least trying to give us a little bit of a pullback and poke higher up toward that 4812 area, and that's about as high as they can go to keep this A wave in a reasonable spot. So the A wave target will be 4812 or so to the upside if it's going to complete, if it hasn't already. I didn't see anything today that would indicate a meltdown, but we would look for potentially a little bit more of a pullback, but 4812 would be the area of resistance for this circle A wave. Then we'd expect a pretty deep retrace in B because of how high A came up. And so we'd look for a three-wave pattern to the downside, potentially down to as low as 4,350 to 4,400 on the ES, before starting the C wave back to new all-time highs toward the 4,950 to 5,000 level on ES and about 4,900 to 4,950 on the SPX. So that would be the primary path, is that circle A is trying to end up here. We're looking for a B wave pullback and then the C wave up to the 4,900 all-time highs in a more common structure than what the alternate paths would be. So this is the more common structure, the more likely structure. what happens in the 80-20 rule. So everything's, you know, relative. Not everything's going to play out exactly every time. If it did, we'd all be billionaires and this would all be easy. But 80% of the time, Elliott Wave has it nailed on the primary path, and about 20% of the time we deviate from that path for some reason or another. And so we play the higher probability paths, and if they don't play out, that's no big deal. We just adjust to the alternate counts. So the more common, more standard path would be the B wave pullback down towards that 4,400, 4,350 area and then back up. The secondary path would be that we are topping in a bigger B wave of the bigger ABC that I talked about in October of 22 when we were at the lows. I said we'd be coming back up in a B wave and then down in C. It is possible that the August high or the July highs were the A wave of B, and then we got the B wave down towards 4,100, and this is C of B to complete. As long as we're under the all-time highs, this is reasonable. And it's not that they can't go over all-time highs. The B waves can be expanded flats. They can go higher than the A wave or the previous high. That's not impossible. But for the more standard count, again, the 80-20 rule, the more standard count, as long as we're below all-time highs, this is possible. However, again, in the more standard view, as high as we are in this wave toward the all-time highs, I don't think this one is as likely. It's not impossible, but it's not as likely to play out. And then finally, the other path that we've talked about is that we're in the more direct path to all-time highs, and the C wave is now extending in 3 to the 1, 2, 3, 6 here. And if that's the case, okay, we would be looking for a smaller pullback to about 46.30 to backtest this consolidation area, which does make sense. And then we'd be looking for a pushback up toward about the 48.80 area, 4,900 on the ES. Then you'd be looking for one more pullback in 4, and then up to about that 4,950 to 5,000 area on the ES. So we'd look for 3 of 3 to be ending here shortly, then 4 of 3 and 5 of 3 up towards 48.90 or so, then a pullback to 4,700, then the 4,900 or 4,950 to 5,000 area for the top after that. So those are the 3 paths that we're looking at. I do still think a pullback is needed and likely. If they go directly higher in this structure when that all-time high hits and they do find a top, the selling can be very fierce because there is no structure down here to hold anything. This structure here is about all you have at about 4,600. That would be support. Other than that, it can get real thin real fast to the downside. So overall, those are the 3 paths. Circle A, circle B, and then C up would be my primary. The B wave and the C wave, B wave top and then C wave up would be the 2 alternate counts, just depending on the pullback, what it looks like, and how deep it goes. So a pullback that holds this consolidation range and then pushes higher would indicate that we are very likely in the C wave up and taking that more direct route, whereas if they come down and break below this, then we're looking at either the circle B starting C down or this B down here. Over on the NASDAQ, okay, as I mentioned on the NASDAQ yesterday, we were looking for a wave 4 pullback. The reasonable target for that was 16,675 down to 16,545. Below 16,441 is a warning to the bulls on the NASDAQ that we could be seeing a bigger pullback underway. But they did come down, and they have so far hit the 16,675 area, and they've given us a little bounce. Now, that doesn't mean we're done here and we're going back up in 5. We could still see a bounce and then a wave C down into this 16,545 area before we see more upside. But overall, the NASDAQ did give us a wave 4 pullback that is reasonable in length, and that's why I said in the intro the NASDAQ has given us some clues, even though the market didn't do a whole lot trading-wise today. If they're able to hold either spot, the 1675 or 16545 area, we would be looking for that 17,000 to 17,100 area to complete this wave 5. And then we would be looking for a bigger wave 2 to the downside before starting the 1 of 3, 2 of 3 breakout move to the upside that would target about the 18,500 to 19,000 area on the NASDAQ. So NASDAQ, we're still looking for them to pull back if they have topped here. We would look for them to break down 15,441. And depending on what kind of pullback we get here, whether it's 3 or 5 waves, that will tell a bigger story. I am anticipating 3 waves and then the move to highs after that. So NASDAQ doing what it's supposed to, gave us the pullback. We're looking for the smaller pullback into the 236. We would like to see it hit the 382 if we can, but this is a perfectly reasonable wave 4. And then the next target higher would be 17 to 17,100. Guys, if you like the information I put out in these videos and you want real-time market updates from me, you need to check out investwithjacob.com. There's a link down in the description. Go ahead and click that link, and it'll take you right over to the webpage. Once you're there, check out our membership plans area. We have 2 incredible plans, and they both come with a 7-day free trial because I want you to get in there. I want you to make sure you love it and become part of the trading team before you ever spend a penny. You can cancel at any time. We also have our Elliott Wave for Beginners online course. That course is helping real traders make real money and understand the market in a way that finally makes sense. It can be very confusing when good news makes the market go down and bad news makes the market go up. And with Elliott Wave, you don't have to worry about that. You have the key numbers, and when those key numbers break, you know what to look for next. And when they hold, you know what to look for next. It gives you a clear advantage over every other trader who doesn't use it because it does give you technical analysis with the key levels so that you can trade off of them. It is 25 videos where I go over 3 parts. First is the introduction. We go over through your Elliott Wave expectations, your mindset, all that stuff. We go through your chart setup and tools, all the tools you need to use with Elliott Wave Theory and how they work, as well as the Elliott Wave for Beginners online area where I go through each of the waves, what they look like, how to measure them, how to know when they're failing, what targets to hit, all of those different things so that you can understand the market in a way that makes sense. We go through the theory of alternation, the corrective depth theory, the pivot. You will understand Elliott Wave Theory and the market in a way you never have before. The really cool thing, guys, is if you don't want to pay the $67, I completely understand. That's why you can get it for free by becoming a monthly member. In our first room, the Invest with Jacob room, you get all of my real-time market updates, all of my buy and sell alerts, all of your Elliott Wave questions answered, a midday video where I go over exactly where we are in the counts and what to expect, as well as the Elliott Wave for Beginners online course. We trade the SPY and the QQQ, and we swing and day trade, which means we trade quite often in my room. But if you are looking for futures trading, individual stocks, income trading, and advanced training, you need to check out PT's throne room. In there, you get everything you get in the Invest with Jacob room, as well as income trading, where PT sets up trades to get you 5 to 6 points per day, trying to get 100 points per month. You get his reduced risk binary method that absolutely crushes the market and gets you in at a small price with big multiples on that price, and it's something you really have to see to understand. And that's another reason we give you that 7-day free trial. He also started a challenge account where he put $4,000 into an account trading mini ES futures, showing you how to build a small account into a large retirement or savings account. Guys, we would love to have you in these rooms so we can all make money together. All right, the key takeaways for today. We did get a tiny little pullback here to set up maybe a wave 4. That's what we were looking for yesterday, as a 4 or 5 to kind of complete this move. So it is possible we can see this as an A, B, and then a little bit of a C wave down, and then back up toward that 48.12 area to complete. However, if they have topped, we would want to see them break down below 4,700 and then into the 46.31 area would be the next target. If they're able to hold there and push back up over the highs, then it would be more likely we're on our way to all-time highs in a more direct manner. Below that, and we start to look at the potential for this A, B down here, the circle B wave, or the potential that we've topped in circle B heading down in C. On the NASDAQ, same type of situation. We have hit deep enough for a wave 4 and then looking for a push higher toward that 17,000 area. They can come down to 16,545 or 16,441. Below 16,441 is a warning that we might be seeing a bigger pullback play out. But until we actually see that support level break, pressure does remain up. The targets to the upside are 17,000 to 17,100. And then that should complete our wave 5, and we would try to see a pullback off of that. Guys, it's the weekend. Have yourself a drink, get out of the house, enjoy your family, and I will talk to you next week.